Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And this month, as some of you may know, I have been uploading about a video a day wherein I try to talk about a film or a TV series, whatever the case may be, that in one way or another, from my point of view, has something to do with the spirit of this particular month of October 2020, which is Halloween. Maybe they have a Halloween aspect to the plot. Maybe there's something of a chill and thrill about the story and how it's presented in terms of its entertainment value and narrative and thematic concern. In any event, my friends, I have been trying to just share with you some thoughts that I have about these works. Today, I'd like to focus our attention in this spirit on a film that is very famous, and it is from one of the most important and most, I would say, artistic and revolutionary cinematic voices that we have ever witnessed. His works are incredibly important. They are very visually stimulating, and they show us a kind of depth of a soul, a cinematically created soul that is boundless and that is filled with a sense of awe and wonder as to the power of the medium. It's truly a kind of one-of-a-kind, incredibly important filmmaker. And that filmmaker's name is Carl Theodor Dreyer. And his film from 1932 is this film. The name of the film is VAMPYR, or I believe the pronunciation of the film is actually closer to something like, and pardon me for my poor pronunciation, but VAMPYR. In any event, VAMPYR, or VAMPYR, is a one-of-a-kind experience. This is cinema. This film is cinema. It is a film that is, in essence, about a particular town or community, and we have a visitor to this community. And from there, certain seemingly sinister, perhaps supernatural, certainly atmospheric goings-on do occur. And I think that is the extent of the plot that I'm willing to discuss here, because this is a film that is also very rich in detail. This is a film that is incredibly evocative in terms of what it is trying to conjure up in its cinematic eye. There is so much here with respect to the frame, but also with respect to camera work, the way that the camera moves, the way that superimpositions are made, editing tricks. Everything is here to make what might be termed to be somewhat of an atmospheric, ghost-like, specter-like of image in some instances. There are really imaginative uses of frame rates. There are incredibly stylistic. They're very stylish and stylistic uses of light and shadow, the way that shadows of people interact with the environment around them, of the walls and the fog and the doors of empty corridors. And the shadows also play an important part, because not only are the shadows very much a part of the decor, a part of the ambiance, if you will, they are also things that in many instances seem to have a life of their own. And that is another example of the inventive creepiness of many of the approaches in this film. Dreyer shows us, I think, the potential, a real deep and valuable potential in the art of cinema, not just in terms of a an emotional reaction on the part of the viewer. But in case of VAMPYR, the idea of expressing the unknowable and trying to capture in a visual way something of the subjective experience, which might be also described or akin to the notion of cinema trying to capture what might be termed the essence of the subconscious. And when we think about how truly artistically daring that kind of effort is, and especially considering how successful that effort really played itself out in terms of this particular film, then I think, I don't know about you, but I certainly feel that that is a really powerful statement with regard to the, as I say, boundless energy and almost infinite power that is the cinematic medium. This film uses, as I say, light and shadow, uses people moving in and out of the frame, hands and stairs and hallways and darkness and light, and it uses haziness and a kind of hallucinatory objective to the approach, such that when we see the film, we're not quite sure if we're seeing something that is meant to be an objectively realized story, or maybe it is a figment of a character's imagination. Maybe the images, and as warped and as hallucinatory as they can get, maybe this is a clue as to perhaps some kind of supernatural underpinning to the proceedings, or perhaps there's something even more complex and nuanced at play here, in terms not just of a supernatural outplay, but also perhaps a real rich and quite fulfilling expression of some kind of psychosis, if you will, the human condition played out on the cinematic canvas. And when we think about that, the sky's the limit. And indeed, the sky is the limit and more with this film, because we have many things that don't make sense in this film. And it's the fact that there is the nonsensical at play here that gives us a little bit of an unease when you watch this film. There is also the unexplained, which is expressed here as well, which also gives us a sense of the macabre or the sinister. There are also, as I say, evil forces that seem to be at play here, and we see how that plays out. We also see the effects of the environment and the darkness on innocence, and how that plays itself out. We also see the sometimes quite ghastly and quite horrific effects of these particular sinister forces and what they can do on the people around them, the effects on the human body, life and death, personified, if you will, and expressed and made whole, or made alive, if you will, or made purely cinematic when we talk about this film. And that's really quite an astonishing achievement. And it's not just the visual, of course. There are the use of sounds, the use of voices, and the use of silence, and also the way that interacts with or goes against, in a positive way or productive way, the image in question. And there are a lot of things here that really, I think, defy expectation and also categorization. Things are very difficult to categorize and to classify when watching this film. Is it a horror film? Is it a surrealistic kind of statement on the nature of the human condition? Is it a dream? Is it a nightmare? Is it a sort of maybe a surrealist fantasy? Or is it all of these things and then a whole lot more? And what can we count in that more category? I think we can count definitely a sense of the experimental, because there are many things about this film that are quite revolutionary in terms of a cinematic expression of the particular story. Things are not quite what they seem. So we are getting the experimental, we are getting also the traditionally cinematic in terms of the expressions of these houses and these people and faces and light, dark, shadow, and substance. And so we get the experimental, but also in terms of the real and the corporeal, which therefore gives it a sort of depth, a feeling. But we're also dealing with a piece of cinema. And as a piece of cinema as powerful and as perhaps enigmatic and maybe even elliptical as this film is, VAMPYR, I think we can definitely recognize the kind of one-of-a-kind, unique nature that is going on here, as well as, of course, the idea that this film presents to us some very ghastly and unforgettable images that can really have the potential to linger in the mind for a long time because of how frightening they are. I mean, there are some really iconic moments in this film of images that are just really bone-chilling. And I think that's part of the effect that makes this film VAMPYR a treat, a wonderful sight to behold, a wonderful experience for the senses, and also a thrilling and quite mesmerizing and perplexing and maybe even frustrating, but that's a good thing too, work of art of the highest caliber possible. This is such an iconic film. It is fitting for Halloween, that's for sure, and it is fitting for any time of the year. This is the film from the great cinematic legend Carl Theodor Dreyer from 1932. This is the film VAMPYR. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you once again for your time. As always, my dear friends, and cheers.